Thanks for joining our Solar Career Pathways webinar. My name is Ingrid. I'm the Workforce Development Coordinator for the SOMAH program. This webinar is hosted by the Solar and Multifamily Affordable Housing Program, or SOMAH program. Just want to ask you to please put in the chat where you're joining us from, and are you a job seeker, part of a job training organization, a community member, or working in the industry, and just let us know how you're involved, please. A little bit about SOMAH. SOMAH is a $1 billion California state solar incentive program that provides funding to install solar energy systems on affordable housing properties so that tenants can benefit from the energy cost savings. SOMAH has a workforce development and job training requirement, and with every project, there's 1 to 2 paid training opportunities. The SOMAH project pipeline has nearly 800 paid job training opportunities across the state in project design and installation and project management and operations and maintenance. And the SOMAH workforce development team seeks to engage job seekers and job trainees and connect them with our network of solar contractors to work on SOMAH projects. The workforce development team also organizes events like this to make sure that our audience knows how to access solar careers and build soft skills like how to write a resume, etc. Please let us know if you're interested in learning more about an aspect of the solar industry. Email us at workforce@calsomah.org and we'll chat the email to y'all. So who is eligible for the SOMAH paid training opportunities? If you're currently in a solar training program or are a resident of a SOMAH property, sign up for our job portal. You can create an account there, upload your resume, and look up SOMAH paid training opportunities. If you're not in a SOMAH paid training, if you're not in a solar training program, but you're interested in SOMAH paid training opportunities, find a solar training program close to you by visiting our website and our job training organization directory. And we'll post both of these links in the chat. So as part of the SOMAH job training organization directory, you can find a list of 60 eligible job training programs, which include the program name, location, contact information, and contractors can contact job training organizations to recruit eligible trainees, and prospective job trainees can enroll in job training organizations. Today's event will feature a presentation by Megan House from the Interstate Renewable Energy Council, or IREC. After the presentation, we will save some time for a question and answer session. Feel free to submit your questions at any time throughout the presentation using the Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. You can also chat to the panelists or to everyone in the audience using the chat feature. Yeah, so a little bit about Megan. She's a program manager focused on reducing solar industry soft costs, particularly related to workforce development. She previously coordinated the Solar Foundation's Solar Training Network initiative, which provides original industry resources and leveraged cross-functional partnerships for stronger solar career pathways. Since the merger between the Solar Foundation and IREC, she continues to manage IREC's growing portfolio of workforce development programming and supports efforts to build industry capacity as solar emerges as a mainstream part of the American energy sector. Megan comes to IREC with a background in environmental science and public affairs, and she previously served as a constituent and legislative affairs intern at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA. Megan, we're so excited to have you join, and I'll pass the mic to Megan.
All right, thanks, Ingrid. Just bear with me a second. I'm going to share my screen here. All right, can you guys see that?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I can never tell if it's actually working. All right, so I think we can go ahead and get started. So thank you, Ingrid, for that great introduction. And thanks to Great Alternatives and the SOMAH team for inviting me to speak with you all today. So like Ingrid explained, I'm on the workforce team at the Interstate Renewable Energy Council. And I'll be sharing some information and resources related to careers in the solar industry. So here's just a plan for what we'll cover today. I'm going to give you a quick introduction to my organization and the work that we're doing to advance clean energy. And we'll look at some industry trends in the solar jobs landscape. And I have a few career development resources to share. And then we'll have some time at the end for questions and discussion. Solar and all the clean energy industries are expanding really fast. And this moment of unprecedented growth is a really excellent time to be thinking about a career in solar. So very excited to have you guys all here with us today. And just to note that all of the slides and all of the resources that we'll look at today will be shared afterwards by the GRID team. So just keep an eye out for that in your email either later today or tomorrow. So my organization is the Interstate Renewable Energy Council. We're an independent nonprofit. We lead a pretty wide range of cross-functional programs that help communities across the country realize the transformative potential of an equitable and sustainable energy future. Our workforce development team leads efforts to grow and sustain a diverse and highly qualified clean energy workforce through innovative resources and collaborative strategies that improve recruitment, education, and job placement outcomes. So the workforce team is where I spend most of my time, but our other major areas of impact are helping local communities to understand and implement solutions to drive growth of clean energy and address climate change and create new jobs. And IREC is also a national leader in regulatory policies that expand clean energy markets. And the work that we do on all of these fronts serves our vision of a rapid and just transition to a resilient and equitable clean energy future. So the solar industry offers high quality family and community supporting jobs and a tremendous range of opportunities for individuals with diverse skill sets and interests and backgrounds to help power this transition to a clean energy future. Skilled trades and technical roles like installers and electricians are the front lines of the solar workforce and are currently some of the fastest growing jobs in the country. But the industry is supported by a wide range of job functions, and there's a rapidly growing need for talent across all levels and all sectors of the industry. So we're just going to talk through the different sectors of the solar industry and look at a high level overview of the types of jobs that you might find in each, and we'll explore some industry trends and where the solar industry is headed next. So solar installations can be categorized by scale, ranging from small residential rooftop installations to mid-sized commercial scale projects to much larger ground mount utility scale installations. So regional solar markets vary by location. Some states tend to have more residential than utility scale or vice versa. And these differences are often influenced by factors related to geography and also state level policy. So residential scale solar is just what it sounds like. These are those smaller installations that you see on the roof of a single or multifamily home, and the energy generated is used to power that home. Commercial solar, sometimes this is also called industrial. It can be rooftop on a commercial building or it can be ground mounted. And community solar projects, they're also typically grouped with that category. Both residential and commercial scale solar projects fall under what's considered distributed generation, meaning that they generate electricity near or at where it's used. And then utility scale projects, on the other hand, are those large scale installations, typically 1 megawatt or more in size, that supply electricity right into the grid, and that electricity is provided to the utility rather than the end use consumer. So each of these kinds of installations can be and usually are paired with an energy storage system that provide power when the sun's not shining. I included this slide just to emphasize the diversity of solar jobs and career pathways. There are increasing opportunities across the industry for a wide range of skill sets and interests, but generally speaking, most solar jobs will fit into one of these 5 categories. So installation and project development make up about 2/3 of solar jobs. So these are your installers, site assessors, electricians, system engineers, construction managers, things like that. Operations and maintenance technicians Those are the folks who monitor and maintain solar systems after they've been installed. There's especially high demand for entry-level O&M techs, especially on the utility scale side. And more of like a mid-level asset management role would fit into this category too. Sales jobs are growing really fast. This would include inside and outside sales, lead generation, and customer support. Not as prevalent in all regions, but still an important part of the picture is manufacturing. So designing and building the hardware that make up solar systems. And then this kind of catch-all other category would include things like communications, policy, finance, HR, operations, like business development, those kinds of administrative functions. So we'll look at some of these in more detail, but that was just a real quick overview of what a solar job can look like. So some of you may be familiar with the census. So one of IREC's flagship projects is the annual National Solar Job Census. This work has documented the really rapid expansion of solar jobs over the past decade to where we are now with about 250,000 Americans employed in solar jobs across the country. The census is a really comprehensive dive into geographic and market trends across the solar jobs landscape, and it provides an extensive and impartial review of where jobs are growing across residential, commercial, and utility sectors, and down to the level of county and congressional district. It includes a fact sheet for each state with state level job trends and policy benchmarks. The 2020 report was abridged because of the pandemic, but the census also typically includes a review of demographics and diversity, hiring challenges, industry wages, educational requirements to present a broader picture of the solar training and hiring landscape. So this work ultimately serves two purposes. It demonstrates the potential of solar as an economic force, especially at the local level. And it allows us to identify and respond to trends and challenges and gaps across the solar workforce as a whole. The latest numbers that we have are from the 2020 report. So those are what we're going to look at today, but our 21 report will be out later this summer. So keep an eye out for that coming soon. So solar jobs over the past decade have grown about 5 times faster than the overall US economy. And at the last count, there were over 230,000 solar workers across all 50 states, plus DC and Puerto Rico. You can see again that about 2/3 of these jobs are in the installation and construction and project development, with the other industry segments filling in the rest. So federal policies like the solar investment tax credit and just generally declining costs and increasing demand for clean electricity has driven this rapid deployment of solar technology, which is driving these job numbers. And so you can see that there is a slight downturn in the number of jobs over 2020, which is due mostly to the early days of the COVID pandemic. But the amount of solar capacity installed that year grew by over 40% during that time, which just goes to show how dynamic and resilient and essential the industry really is. And it's on track for record-breaking project pipelines again over 2022. So solar jobs are family and community sustaining jobs. This chart is from the census report and compares the average salaries for various positions in the solar industry, which are these yellow bars, with their counterparts in other energy industries and also the overall US economy, which are the blue and green bars below it. So you can see that solar workers often make the same, if not more, than their peers doing the same job in other industries. This is especially true for construction managers and sales. So beyond job numbers, the census looks at demographic trends in the solar workforce. So we look at where jobs are growing, but also study who has these jobs. And we try to identify ways that the industry could do better to become more diverse and inclusive, particularly of transitional and historically disadvantaged workers. So the average makeup of solar companies has historically tended to be predominantly white and male. particularly in leadership positions, but that's changing. And many solar companies are recognizing these shortcomings and are taking deliberate steps to close these gaps and ensure that the solar workforce overcomes traditional, racial and gender inequities. And it's worth noting that just about every demographic measure of diversity that we looked at in the 2020 census saw gains in the industries moving in the right direction. But of course, there's still plenty of room for improvement. So here's a look at what's happening in California. I won't get too in the weeds on all of these numbers, but this is your state fact sheet from the census. So each state's fact sheet shows breakdowns of what that state's solar jobs by sector and market segment. So you can see how all 68,000 solar workers in California are distributed. Almost 60% of California's installation jobs are in the residential sector, with only 7% on the utility end. So if you're looking for an installation job in California, it's most likely going to be in the residential side of things. And each state fact sheet includes little rankings and fun facts. So I'll just call out that almost 24% of the state's electricity generation is coming from solar right now, which makes California the #1 state for installed capacity. California is also far and away the #1 state for solar jobs. So your 68,000 solar jobs are represented by the darkest shade of blue on this map, way outpacing Florida and New York, which are in second and third place. So as we've seen, given rapid industry growth and just in general, it's a great time to be launching a solar career, and California is a great place to do it. So the Biden administration has set an ambitious goal of 100% clean electricity by 2035. In order to meet this goal, the solar industry will need to at least triple the size of the solar workforce and grow to close to 1 million workers across the supply chain over the next decade. So this graph shows where we are now, tracking upward to projected 400,000 workers by the end of the decade. That's the yellow, which you can compare to the kind of all hands on deck scenario. It's the blue that will be needed to rapidly decarbonize our energy sector and stabilize the climate. So we figured out that the solar and clean energy industries have taken off, solar jobs are growing. So what next? We're going to look at some tools and resources that can help with understanding and navigating training and career options. So Interstate Renewable Energy Council has a really innovative and interactive career pathways tool. These career maps are a really valuable resource for anyone who's interested in learning about solar jobs or interested in getting into the industry to understand the opportunities, and not just for jobs, but for careers. So we'll focus on the solar map today, but just wanted to highlight for you that similar tools for green buildings and energy efficiency careers, and also climate control HVAC jobs are also available, and those are worth checking out. These are all available at the link there, and that will, like I said, be included in a follow-up later on. So the solar map illustrates 40 jobs over general categories like system design and engineering, installation and project development, marketing, and so on, with over 60 distinct routes of advancement that someone could potentially follow. So it's set up like a grid where each point on this map displays information about a particular job, like the experience you need, relevant skill sets, typical pay once you have that job, and where you could go from there. And so on the right, this is what you'll see if you click on the basic installer dot at the bottom. So it spells out that an entry-level installer typically has high school diploma, maybe some safety training. Industry credentials, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, are not typically required for entry-level jobs, but are very important for career advancement. So under skills and requirements, you can see like fundamental understanding of solar PV is very helpful. But given the high demand for talent, we're also seeing that many employers will train on the job. So basic mechanical or construction competencies, Critical thinking and problem solving skills are important. Strong verbal communication skills, active listening, being able to follow direction and work in a team are essential to be successful in this kind of job. And then from there, some job experience and further education through maybe an apprenticeship or another training program, and you're on your way to the next step. And then just one thing to flag here, so the salary data that's in this map is a little bit outdated. It's from like 5 or 6 years ago. So just as an example, where it says maybe $14 an hour for an entry-level installer would likely be closer to like 18 or 20 by now. And we're making plans to update this resource, but just wanted to clarify that for everyone. So if we try this out, let's say we start at the basic entry-level installer role. After a little while, maybe you move into a sales position, then you find your way back into an installation job. But this time you've been in the industry for a few years, and now you're a mid-level PV installer. And from there, you could become maybe a project manager. And from there, you'd have the potential to move into a more specialized and advanced role like project developer. Or maybe your first solar job is as a site assessor. There are a few steps you could take from there, but maybe you get some sales experience and decide to move into a system design role. You could potentially work your way into a more advanced design role on bigger, maybe commercial scale projects after that. Go back for a second. So these career maps demonstrate that, like any field, broader opportunities and higher pay come with experience. So those are just two examples. We could spend the whole hour today playing around with this, and I definitely encourage you all to do that on your own time. And the pathways and the data behind this map aren't like set in stone, but they're based on what you generally could expect. And it allows you to visualize how you can turn an entry-level job into a pretty powerful career. If you look at this one is more just for fun. It was developed by our friends over at A&R Solar in Seattle. And this can help you to think through where your strengths and interests would be the best fit. So maybe, for example, you're good at heights, you like to travel, work with your hands. And maybe you're like me and you're just not into multitasking. You could be a great installation tech. On the other hand, if heights and working outdoors aren't really your thing, but you're really outgoing and creative, you could do really, really well in sales and marketing. If you're somebody who thrives in an office setting and you're highly detail oriented and organized, maybe a coordinator or a project manager kind of role could be where you really shine. So this is just another way to reiterate that for your particular skills and interests, there's a place for you in the solar industry. So once you figured out what kind of solar job you're interested in, where can you find training? Solar specific training can range anywhere from like a 1-week course to a 2-year associate's degree program. So it's important to understand what level of education is needed for the entry-level job that you want. So to become a basic entry-level installer, a 40-hour course covering fundamentals of solar technology and safety is recommended. But we're seeing, again, that many employers will train on the job, particularly for someone with basic construction or mechanical or electrical experience and a willingness to learn. There are some longer non-credit courses offered through continuing education at community colleges, and an associate's degree program could put you on a track into a more advanced PV installer role or system design or technical sales. Bottom line is that more education gives you more options, but entry-level jobs are pretty accessible to get your foot in the door and get some industry experience. So most solar training programs are offered through community colleges and vocational schools. There are several high-quality online options as well. Those are great for understanding the fundamentals, but those, of course, don't provide hands-on experience. And what's pictured here, IREC maintains a national directory of solar training programs. that is searchable by location, by NABCEP registration, by GI Bill eligibility, things like that. And I'm sure there are a few training programs that we're missing on here, but we keep this as complete and current as possible. And a link to this resource will be included in our follow-up later on, so you'll have that. So I mentioned NABCEP certification. When you're hearing about solar jobs, sometimes you'll hear about NABCEP. That's the North American Board of Certified Energy Practitioners, and they are the primary credentialing body for the solar industry. So they offer a PV Associates credential, which is the most common one. That's where people start. And that one can lead you to more specialized or more advanced board certifications later on in your career. So to qualify for PV Associate exam, you have to demonstrate either taking an accredited training program or at least 6 months of work experience in the industry. So NABCEP certification is not typically required for an entry-level job, but it does offer distinction in the workforce, and it makes you stand out to employers and raises your earning potential. So it's an important step for career advancement. I included this one in case we have any military connected job seekers. So IREC leads a program called Solar Ready Vets, which helps connect veterans and transitioning service members to solar career pathways and supports solar employers to appreciate and invest in military talent. So veterans offer really strong leadership and teamwork and organizational skills that are really key for excelling in all kinds of solar jobs. And so we work with partners to just make those connections. So any veterans or service members interested in solar opportunities can join the network, and that's how you can stay current on all of our veteran hiring events and other resources. So all of the resources that we covered today are all organized for you in this toolkit that's available for free. You can download on our website. Our goal in creating this document is to equip job seekers and also career counselors with an understanding of solar job opportunities and career pathways and career development resources. So this covers just a high-level overview of the solar jobs market and industry trends like we talked about today. And it has all of these career development resources that we looked at. And it also includes several profiles of high demand entry-level roles to give you a sense of like what those jobs entail and what kind of training is necessary to succeed in that role, and then where you could go from there. So there's a link at the bottom to download, and we'll send that around later too. Yeah, so that's what I've got. You can connect with IREC by email and on our socials to stay current on our resources. Those are our career maps again. I guess at this point, Ingrid, I'll stop talking for a minute and turn it back to you, and we can see what questions we have.
Yeah, we have a couple of questions, but if you have questions still, please add it to the chat. Megan, would you stop sharing your screen?
Oh, yeah.
Thanks. So one of the first questions is, how can a job seeker identify solar training and job opportunities in their community?
That's a great question. So for training, I mean, there's the training directory that we just looked at. That map has lots of good opportunities on there. And there's a good tool when you're looking for job opportunities. There's a good tool from SEIA, the Solar Energy Industries Association. They have a national solar database, which basically is a comprehensive list of all the solar companies that operate in the US. So you can search that by location on the map to find companies that may have jobs near you. From there, once you've identified some companies that you might like to work with, just doing some background research to understand the work that they do and what sector of the industry they operate in, and then either applying for jobs directly or maybe asking for informational interviews is always a good step to learn more about the industry and build your network. There are a few job boards, but those don't always have every opportunity posted. So sometimes you have to be a little bit proactive and just do your research.
Thank you. Yeah, informational interviews are great. Can you recommend any additional resources for job seekers to check out?
Yeah. So, I mean, Grid Alternatives is a fantastic resource for training in California. And I'm sure everybody who's on the webinar knows all about Grid already. But otherwise, there are some great like free online training options and job placement resources. So like HeatSpring and Solar Energy International both offer really good quality online courses covering everything from like basic fundamentals of PV technology to more specialized topics. And there are a lot of courses that are offered for free. So those are worth checking out. There's also, it's called Greenwork, is a new platform for the clean energy workforce. It's not solar specific, but it can help you make connections to employers and technical training programs and figure out your next steps. Then otherwise, I would just recommend like familiarizing yourself with the industry by like reading the news, reading articles in trade publications. There's like Solar Power World magazine, PV magazine is another. Just keeping up with the industry is important.
Yeah, thanks for those resources. What positions in the solar industry tend to have the greatest demand, and where are jobs likely to grow in the future?
So overall, the majority of solar jobs are concentrated in installation, which includes like construction and electrical aspects of getting systems up and running. So project management, and there's also huge demand for technical sales. But opportunities are also expanding across like project development, operations and maintenance, business development, even like policy, communications, all of those roles that power the industry. As the industry is growing, there's going to be more and more of those opportunities. And geographic trends and job growth are driven, at least to an extent, by policy at the state level. So just for example, where I am in Maine, new legislation in the past couple of years has really opened up the solar market. And similar trends are seen in a lot of different states. So like Illinois is another example where the state is really investing in a clean energy workforce through their Future Energy Jobs Act. I mean, there's similar investments happening in California. So I don't know if you, Ingrid, or maybe Stacy might want to elaborate on how the solar program fits into that bigger picture.
Yeah, I mean, if you have 40 hours of paid solar training, or if you are a resident of a SOMAH paid training opportunity and are looking to go into the industry, you can sign up for our SOMAH paid job training opportunities. And we've had people hired on the spot from these opportunities because they connect directly with contractors. That's not a guarantee, and it doesn't happen every time, but it has happened many times. Stacey, I don't know if you had any other advice or comments about that.
Yeah, I think you covered a good piece of it.
Thanks. How can someone remain knowledgeable about the industry? Will you please speak to the importance of continuing education?
Yeah, sure. That's a great question. So the solar industry and like clean energy more broadly is a very dynamic industry. It's evolving very quickly. It's a really exciting place to be. So NABCEP certifications, like we talked about, are worth looking into. And once you know where you want to focus, getting the associate's credential and then looking at certifications that are geared towards either like the PV installation professional or design or technical sales. Those are some good options, and those can help you stand out to employers with greater like professional credibility and also increase your long-term earning potential. And to land like an entry-level job, it's not super necessary, but in terms of career development and advancing in the industry, depending on your career goals and where you want to go, that can be really important. Another thing just generally to note is a lot of the jobs that are being created in the clean energy industry are what we think of as like either green collar or sometimes called new collar jobs, those jobs that don't require a traditional four-year degree, but rather like rely on gaining skills and stackable credentials through on-the-job training or vocational training and apprenticeships, other technical certification programs, things like that. And so, I mean, it's true in a lot of fields, but continuing education really makes the difference between having a solar job and having a solar career.
Thanks. I like how you put that at the end. The difference between having a solar job and a solar career. We have a question from Danny. Should someone who is interested in getting into solar and knows the California industry is big consider relocating to California to begin their career? Or would they be better off pursuing opportunities in their home state?
That's an interesting question. It depends where you're coming from. I think most states have a pretty quickly evolving solar market. California definitely does have the most jobs, but I mean, the other states are places you wouldn't necessarily expect, like Massachusetts is right up there. That's again because the state has chosen to invest in clean energy. Texas, Florida are good options. I mean, there's solar everywhere. The industry is growing in all 50 states. And so I would look around at where you're starting from before you pack up and move.
Yeah. And what do you find most rewarding or most exciting about working in clean energy?
That's a really interesting question. I guess my interest in working in this space it comes from the fact that the climate crisis will be a defining challenge of our time, and renewable energy presents such a unique and powerful opportunity across, things like improving public health and creating space for small business and improving equitable access to these high road jobs. And solar is really a catalyst for so many of these things, not just environmental, but economic and social dimensions of sustainable development. And so the work that we do in expanding solar energy has positive impacts in lots of different areas. And the solar industry is a great community with, so many dedicated and really inspiring people working to power a brighter future, as we like to say at IREC. And one of the training partners that we work with likes to say that solar is an industry where you can do well, but also do good. And I think that sentiment kind of sums up how the industry offers great opportunities for family and community sustaining jobs, and also rewarding careers that really make a meaningful difference in the world.
Yes, definitely rewarding. That is all the questions that I had. If you still have questions, please post in the chat. Stacy, do you have any other questions?
I don't think so. Megan, thank you so much for joining us and answering all those questions.
Yeah, well, thank you for letting me come and talk at you for an hour. This was fun.
All right, should we close it there?
Sounds good.
Thanks everyone for joining. We will send a recording and we will send a follow-up email with all the resources we talked about today. Thank you so much for joining. Our next webinar is in September. So please check your emails and check our social media for more information on that. And yeah, I look forward to seeing y'all there. Take care.
Great, thanks everyone.
Bye.